Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the shadows of reality, where the world you know flickers like a candle in a storm. Picture yourself standing in a quiet forest, the air thick with pine, when suddenly the trees hum with a frequency you feel in your bones. It's as if the universe just whispered something you weren't supposed to hear. Tonight, you're peeling back the veil on strange realities, truths so wild your cozy little worldview might not survive the trip. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you're listening from as we unravel these mysteries. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start in a place that feels familiar, yet off, like a room where the walls don't quite meet at right angles. Hidden realms, dimensions just beyond your sight, hum at the edges of perception. You've heard of quantum mechanics, right? In 1925, Werner Heisenberg laid the groundwork for it, showing particles can exist in multiple states until observed. It's mainstream now, taught in every physics class, but it hints at something wilder. Reality isn't as solid as you think. You're walking through a world where the act of looking changes what's there. Imagine glancing at a star and it shifts because your eyes touched it. Spooky, right? But let's push further into the weird. There's this fringe idea, whispered in obscure forums, that some people can sense these hidden dimensions without fancy equipment. They describe a buzzing like static in their teeth when they stand in certain places. Old stone circles, abandoned churches, or even random gas stations at 3 a.m. You're skeptical, but then you remember that time you walked into a room and felt watched. Not by anyone, just by the air itself. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures, like the builders of Stonehenge around 2500 BCE, knew about these unseen layers. Were their rituals just superstition, or were they tuning into something we've forgotten how to hear? You're standing now in one of those places, a crumbling ruin, let's say, somewhere in the Scottish Highlands. The stones are cold under your fingers, moss creeping into the cracks. The wind carries a low hum, not quite a sound, more like a pressure in your chest. You close your eyes and for a split second the world feels bigger. Like you're brushing against a curtain and behind it, something vast is waiting. You laugh it off, probably just too much coffee, right? But then you notice your phone's battery is suddenly dead, even though it was at 80% a minute ago. Coincidence? Maybe. But these hidden realms don't play by your rules. Picture yourself wandering deeper into this ruin. The air grows heavier, like you're wading through molasses. You hear stories of people who've stood in places like this and seen things, flashes of light, shapes that don't fit geometry. In the 1970s, a group of hikers in Peru claimed they walked through a shimmer in the Andes and ended up miles away hours later with no memory of the journey. Scientists scoffed, blaming altitude sickness, but the hikers' watches were all stopped at the same time. You're not saying it's true, but you're starting to wonder what's behind that curtain you're brushing against. Now you're not alone in this ruin. There's a faint glow, not from the moon, but from something in the ground. You kneel, brushing dirt away, and find a symbol carved into the stone. It's not Celtic, not Norse, nothing you recognize. It pulses just for a second and you swear the air tastes like metal. You're tempted to take a picture, but your gut says no. Maybe it's the stories of people who tried and found their photos blank, or worse, showing things they didn't see. You stand up, heart thumping, and the hum is louder now. It's not just in your chest, it's in your head like a song you can't unhear. Let's lighten the mood for a second. Ever try to explain quantum physics to your dog? You get the same blank stare you're giving this ruin right now. But seriously, the idea of hidden dimensions isn't just sci-fi nonsense. String theory, a legitimate physics concept, suggests there could be up to 11 dimensions, curled up so tiny we can't see them. Yet, some folks claim they felt them like a glitch in the Matrix. You're not sure if you buy it, but as you step away from that symbol, the air feels normal again. Too normal. Like the universe just hit the reset button on you. You're back in the forest now, the ruin fading into the mist behind you. But that hum lingers, a reminder that reality has cracks. You've heard of the double-slit experiment, where light acts like both a particle and a wave depending on observation. It's real, done in labs since the 1800s, but it raises questions. If looking changes reality, what happens when something looks back? You chuckle, thinking of that old saying about staring into the abyss. Except now you're not so sure it's just a saying. You glance at the trees and for a moment they seem to lean closer. Just your imagination? Probably. You're still in that misty forest, the hum from that strange ruin fading like a half-remembered dream, but now time itself feels slippery. You check your watch and the second hand stutters, ticking backward for just a moment before snapping forward. You blink, shaking your head. probably just a cheap battery, right? But deep down, you know you've stepped into a place where time doesn't play fair. You're sliding through moments where the rules of seconds, minutes, and hours bend, fracture, and sometimes just vanish. Let's ground this in something solid. In 1905, Albert Einstein dropped his theory of special relativity, proving time isn't absolute. It stretches or shrinks depending on speed and gravity. Clocks on fast-moving satellites tick slower than ones on Earth. It's measurable, not sci-fi. But you're not on a satellite. You're standing on damp moss, and yet the air feels like it's pulling you sideways, not through space but through when. You glance at a tree and for a split second, it's younger, fewer rings, brighter leaves. You rub your eyes, muttering about needing sleep, but the forest doesn't care about your excuses. Now here's where it gets quirky. There's this old story from 1971, a guy named John in Liverpool who claimed he walked home from work and found his street stuck in the 1940s. Trams rattled by, people wore wartime coats, and his apartment block was half-built. He wandered for an hour, then blinked, and it was 1971 again. Locals called it a time slip, a glitch where you stumble into another era. Historians still argue whether these slips are real or just brain hiccups. Mass hysteria maybe, or too many late-night kebabs. But John swore his watch gained 3 hours that night, and he wasn't alone. Similar tales pop up worldwide, from Kyoto to New Orleans. You take a step, and the ground feels softer, like it's not fully committed to being here. The forest is quieter now, birdsong replaced by a low drone, like a distant engine. You remember that ruin from before, its pulsing symbol, and wonder if it's messing with you still. Time's supposed to be a straight line, but what if it's more like a tangled ball of yarn? You laugh softly, great, now you're philosophizing in the middle of nowhere. But then you notice your shadow. It's not moving with you. It lingers a step behind, like it's caught in a moment you've already left. Picture yourself reaching out, trying to grab something solid, a branch, a rock, but your hand passes through just for a second like the world's a hologram. You stumble, heart racing, and when you look up, the forest is different. The trees are taller, the sky a deeper blue, and there's a faint smell of smoke, like a campfire from centuries ago. You're not in your time anymore, or maybe you're in all times at once. It's disorienting, like scrolling through a video and landing on the wrong frame. You whisper to yourself, okay, universe, very funny, but the universe doesn't laugh back. Let's talk about something real for a moment. The ancient Mayans, around 300 CE, had a calendar so precise it tracked time across millennia, predicting solar eclipses with eerie accuracy. They believed time was cyclical, not linear, looping back on itself. Maybe they were onto something. You're standing in this forest, and it feels like you've been here before. Not in a déjà vu way, but like you're retracing steps you haven't taken yet. You spot a stone, half buried, with carvings that look suspiciously like the ones from that ruin. Coincidence? Or is time playing hopscotch with you? Now, imagine you sit on that stone trying to get your bearings. Your phone's useless, screen frozen, clock spinning like a slot machine. You close your eyes, counting to 10, hoping to reset whatever this is. When you open them, the forest is normal again. Mostly. But there's a figure in the distance, too far to make out, waving at you. You wave back, then freeze. Nobody's there. Just trees. You chuckle nervously, guess your brain's auditioning for a horror flick. But that wave felt real, like someone or something saw you slip through time's cracks. You stand, brushing dirt off your jeans, and notice your shoelace is untied. Weird, since you double-knotted it earlier. You bend down, and as you tie it, you hear a child's laugh, faint but clear, from nowhere. You spin around, but the forest is empty. Time slips don't just happen in old stories, you realize. They're here now, in the way your breath catches, in the way the world feels like it's holding its breath too. You start walking faster now toward where you think the path is. But the path isn't there anymore. It's just trees, endless trees, and the air is thick with that smoke smell again. One last thought before you keep moving. In the 1990s, physicists started talking about closed time-like curves, theoretical paths where you could loop back to the past. It's math, not magic, but it makes you wonder. Are you caught in one of those curves right now? You smirk, thinking if you are, you'd better not step on any butterflies. The forest is closing in, and time's getting slipperier by the second. You're not sure where or when you're headed, but you're definitely not in Kansas anymore. You're out of the forest now, but the world still feels unsteady, like you're walking on a ship in a storm. You've stumbled onto a hill under a vast night sky, stars blazing brighter than they should. Your breath catches as a faint hum, not like the ruins but sharper, like static from an old radio, buzzes in your ears. You're eavesdropping on signals from stars that, according to every astronomer you've ever heard of, shouldn't exist. The sky feels alive, watching you as much as you're watching it. Let's anchor this in something concrete. In 1967, Jocelyn Bell Burnell discovered pulsars, neutron stars sending out rhythmic radio waves like cosmic lighthouses. It's a fact, etched in science history, and it proved stars could talk in a way. But you're not hearing pulsars up there. These signals are Messier, almost like Morse code from a drunk telegraph operator. You tilt your head, trying to make sense of it, and the stars seem to pulse in response. You laugh softly, great, now you're chatting with the cosmos. Hope it doesn't ask for your Wi-Fi password. Here's the quirky bit. In 1977, something called the WOW signal hit a radio telescope in Ohio, a 72-second burst of noise so strange, astronomer Jerry Emmons circled it on the printout and wrote, "Wow," next to it. It was narrow-band, precise, like someone out there was trying to say hello. No one's explained it since. Historians still argue whether it was aliens, a comet, or just the universe pulling a prank. You're standing on this hill, and the hum in your ears feels like that signal, but closer, like it's aimed right at you. You shiver, not from the cold, but because the air tastes electric, like licking a battery. Picture yourself lying back on the grass, staring up. The stars don't just twinkle, they flicker in patterns, almost deliberate. You try to count them, but the numbers slip away like trying to hold water in your hands. You remember that time slip in the forest, how your watch betrayed you. This feels related, like the universe is still toying with its own rules. You pull out your phone, hoping to record the sound, but the screen glitches, showing static instead of stars. You mutter, "Come on, not again," and shove it back in your pocket. The hum grows louder, and now it's not just in your ears, it's in your chest, syncing with your heartbeat. Imagine you close your eyes just for a second, and the hum becomes words. Not clear ones, more like fragments. Here, wait, always. You snap your eyes open, heart pounding. The stars are still there, but one low on the horizon is too bright, too red. It wasn't there a minute ago. You're no astronomer, but you're pretty sure stars don't just pop up like that. You think of those old sailors who navigated by constellations, trusting the sky to be constant. What would they make of this? You chuckle, imagining them throwing their sextants in frustration. Now let's dive deeper. You sit up, brushing grass off your jacket, and notice something odd. Your shadow under the starlight is doubled, like two versions of you are sitting here. One moves when you do, the other lags, just like in the forest. You wave a hand, and the second shadow mimics you a beat too late. You're tempted to run, but where to? The hill feels like the only solid thing in a world that's starting to feel like a bad sci-fi flick. You whisper to yourself, "Okay, universe, what's the deal?" No answer, but the hum shifts, almost like it's laughing. You stand, pacing to shake off the unease. The signals aren't just noise, they're layered, like a conversation you're only catching half of. You think of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, scanning the skies since the 1960s for signs of life. They found nothing definitive, but you're out here, hearing something that makes their telescopes look like toys. You wonder if those signals are meant for you, or if you're just overhearing a cosmic group chat. Either way, you're not supposed to be in on it, and that makes your skin crawl. Let's lighten things up. Ever try stargazing with a cheap telescope and end up seeing your neighbor's TV instead? Yeah, you're not winning any astronomy awards tonight. But as you stare at that red star, it pulses, and the hum in your chest matches it. You think of ancient Sumerians who around 3000 BCE mapped the stars with eerie precision, calling them gods. Maybe they heard this too. Maybe that's why their myths are full of sky beings watching humans like ants. You glance at the red star again, and it's gone. Just gone. The hum stops, and the silence is worse. You take a deep breath, the grass crunching under your feet. The normal stars are back, bland and twinkling, but you're not fooled. Something's out there, sending signals you weren't meant to hear. You remember that carved stone from the ruin, the time slip in the forest. It's all connected, isn't it? The universe is whispering, and you're starting to think it's not just small talk. You're no longer on that starlit hill, the cosmic whispers fading like a radio losing signal. Now you're trudging through a dusty plain, the air thick with heat and secrecy. Barbed wire glints in the distance, and signs scream "restricted area" in faded red letters. You've wandered into one of Earth's forbidden zones, places governments seal tight, no explanation given. The ground crunches under your boots, and you can't shake the feeling you're being watched, not by stars but by something much closer. Let's root this in history. In 1947, the Roswell incident put Area 51 on the map when a supposed UFO crash sparked decades of conspiracy theories. It's fact. The US military did retrieve debris in New Mexico, though they called it a weather balloon. You're standing somewhere like that now, maybe not Nevada, maybe somewhere colder, bleaker, like Russia's Kapustin Yar or Australia's Pine Gap. The air smells faintly of ozone, and you notice tire tracks in the dirt, fresh but leading nowhere. You smirk. Guess even secret bases need food deliveries. Now for the quirky tidbit. In the 1980s, a man named Bob Lazar claimed he worked at Area 51 reverse engineering alien tech. He described craft that moved without sound, defying physics. Most dismissed him as a crackpot, but his story never wavered, and some details, like Element 115, later matched scientific discoveries. Historians still argue whether Lazar was a whistleblower or a storyteller, but as you stand here, the silence feels too heavy, like it's hiding something. You glance at the barbed wire, half expecting a flying saucer to pop up like in a bad B-movie. Picture yourself creeping closer to the fence. There's a low hum, not the ruins pulse or the stars static, but mechanical, like a generator buried deep. You spot a camera, its lens glinting like an unblinking eye. You freeze, heart thumping, remembering those signals from the hill. What if they weren't from stars but from here, bounced off the sky to throw you off? You laugh softly, paranoid much? But then a light flickers beyond the fence, not a spotlight, but something softer, bluish, like it's underwater. You squint and for a second you swear you see a shape, tall, angular, not human. You back away, tripping over a rock. The ground here feels wrong, like it's been scorched and swept clean. You think of those time slips in the forest, how reality bent. This place feels like that, but deliberate, like someone's locked the weirdness behind barbed wire. You notice a sign half buried in the dirt. Warning, anomalous phenomena. Anomalous? That's a fancy word for stuff we don't talk about. You're tempted to take a picture, but your phone's been glitchy since the hill, and you're not keen on drawing attention. Imagine you circle the perimeter, keeping low. The hum gets louder, vibrating in your teeth. You spot a gate, rusted but locked with a keypad that looks too new. Beyond it, buildings squat in the dark, their windows blacked out. You've heard stories, locals whispering about lights in the sky, workers who vanish, animals found with strange burns. In 1955, the CIA officially acknowledged Area 51's existence, but only as a testing site for spy planes. Spy planes don't explain the blue glow or the way your skin prickles like you're standing in a microwave. You crouch, catching your breath. The air's dry, but you taste metal, like when you brushed that carved stone in the ruin. Call it a callback, but you're starting to think these places, the ruin, the forest, the hill, are linked like pins on a map of reality's weak spots. You chuckle, imagining explaining this to your friends. Yeah, I took a walk and found the universe's back door. They'd think you're nuts, but you're not so sure anymore. Now picture a sound, a sharp crack like a branch snapping. You whip around, but there's nothing, just dust swirling in the moonlight. Except, the dust isn't settling. It's moving, forming shapes like letters you can't read. You blink and it's gone, but your pulse is racing. You think of ancient Egypt, where around 2500 BCE, priests guarded sacred sites, claiming they held dangerous knowledge. Were they hiding places like this? You're no priest, but you're starting to get why some doors stay locked. One last thought as you back away from the fence. In the 1990s, declassified files revealed the US tested psychic espionage programs, trying to spy with the mind. They shut it down, saying it didn't work, but you're standing here, feeling eyes on you from nowhere. You grin, thinking if they're watching, they're probably bored out of their skulls. But as you turn to leave, the blue glow pulses once, bright enough to cast your shadow long and sharp. You don't look back. Whatever's behind that fence, you weren't meant to see it. You're far from that fenced-off zone now, the eerie blue glow a memory that stings like a static shock. You're wandering a desert canyon, the sun baking the red rock until it shimmers like a mirage. Your boots kick up dust and you notice something glinting in the sand, a fragment of metal too smooth, too precise to be natural. You're uncovering relics that whisper of lost civilizations, one so advanced they make your smartphone look like a kid's toy. The air here feels old, heavy with secrets the rocks have kept for millennia. Let's tether this to history. Around 1200 BCE, the Bronze Age collapse saw advanced societies, like the Mycenaeans and Hittites, vanish almost overnight. Archaeologists know trade networks crumbled, cities burned, but no one's sure why. You're holding this metal shard, its edges impossibly sharp, and you wonder if those collapses hid something bigger. Maybe these people didn't just fail, they left or were erased. You turn the shard over, and it catches the light in a way that makes your eyes ache, like it's bending the sun itself. Now for the quirky bit. In 1929, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig found a clay pot in Iraq, dated to 200 CE, with a copper cylinder and iron rod inside. He called it the Baghdad Battery, suggesting ancient Parthians used it for electroplating gold. Skeptics say it was just a storage jar, but tests show it could generate a small current. Historians still argue whether it was a fluke or proof of ancient tech we don't understand. You're staring at your shard, and it hums faintly in your hand, not the ruin's pulse or the Forbidden Zone's drone, but something warmer, like a heartbeat. Picture yourself kneeling in the canyon, brushing sand away. The shard isn't alone. You uncover more pieces, gears maybe, or parts of something bigger. They're not rusted, despite being buried for who knows how long. You arrange them on a flat rock, and they fit together like a puzzle, forming a disc with symbols that remind you of that carved stone from the ruin. You laugh softly. Great, now you're an amateur Indiana Jones. But when you touch the disc, it clicks and a faint light pulses from its center, soft as a firefly. You sit back, heart racing. The canyon walls loom like silent judges, their shadows stretching long as the sun dips. You think of that time slip in the forest, how reality wobbled. This feels like that, but older, like you're holding a piece of a world that didn't make it into history books. You've heard of Göbekli Tepe, a Turkish site from 9600 BCE, with massive carved pillars built by people who supposedly hadn't invented the wheel. How'd they do it? You're starting to think they had help, not aliens necessarily, but knowledge we've lost. Imagine you stand, slipping the disc into your pocket. It's warm against your leg like it's alive. You walk deeper into the canyon, following a faint path worn into the rock. The air grows cooler and you notice carvings on the walls, spirals, lines, shapes that look like circuits. You trace one with your finger and the rock hums just like the shard. You pull your hand back, chuckling nervously. Okay, maybe you are in a sci-fi flick now. But the hum lingers, and you swear the carvings shift when you're not looking, like they're rewriting themselves. You pause, catching your breath. The desert's quiet, but not empty. You hear a low whine, like wind through a straw, coming from a cave ahead. You're tempted to explore, but your gut says to stay put. You think of those stories from the Forbidden Zone, the warnings about anomalous phenomena. This canyon feels like one of those places, a pocket where reality's rules got misfiled. You glance at the disc in your pocket, wondering if it's a key or a trap. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try assembling IKEA furniture and find an extra screw that fits nothing? That's how you feel holding this disc, like you've got a piece of something way bigger than your brain can handle. You smirk, imagining some ancient engineer laughing at you from the past. But then you notice your shadow again, just like on the hill, doubled and lagging. You wave, and the second shadow hesitates before copying you. You're not alone here, are you? One last thought as you turn back from the cave. In the 1800s, explorers found impossible artifacts, like crystal skulls, claimed to be pre-Columbian but carved with modern precision. Were they fakes or relics of a tech we can't fathom? You're holding that disc, feeling its warmth, and you're not sure what's real anymore. The canyon's shadows deepen, and you start walking back, the hum fading but never quite gone. You've left the canyon behind, the strange disc still warm in your pocket, its hum a faint echo. Now you're in a quiet city park at dusk, streetlights flickering on as fireflies blink in the grass. The air's soft, but there's a buzz, not from the disc, not from the ruin or the stars, but from people. You're meeting folks whose thoughts don't just bend reality, they break it like a hammer through glass. You sit on a bench, watching a small crowd gather around a man who's speaking, his voice low but magnetic. Let's ground this in history. In 1895, Sigmund Freud began developing psychoanalysis, proving the mind could shape perception in ways science barely grasped. His work showed thoughts aren't just ideas, they're forces twisting how you see the world. But you're not here for textbook psychology. The man speaking in the park isn't analyzing dreams, he's describing places he's never been, events he shouldn't know, with details that make your skin prickle. You lean closer, and his eyes meet yours, like he knows you're carrying that disc from the canyon. Here's the quirky tidbit. In the 1970s, a woman named Dorothy Eady claimed she was the reincarnated lover of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, Seti I. She knew details about his tomb, unsealed years later, that no one could have guessed, like hidden chambers. Egyptologists scoffed, but she led them to artifacts they couldn't explain. Historians still argue whether she was tapping into a past life or something else entirely, like a glitch in reality's memory. You're watching this man now, and he's doing something similar, describing a city under the sea, its spires glowing as if he's walked its streets. Picture yourself shifting on the bench, the wood creaking. The man's voice is hypnotic, weaving images so vivid you smell salt air from that underwater city. He pauses, pointing at you. You've seen it too, he says. Your heart skips. How does he know about the ruin, the forest, the hill? You laugh it off, muttering, "Buddy, I just came for the popcorn." But the crowd murmurs, and a woman nearby nods, saying she dreams of the same city every night. You're starting to wonder if these people's minds are picking up signals like the cosmic whispers from the hill. Imagine you stand, drawn to the man. He's older, with eyes that seem too bright, like they're reflecting light that isn't there. He hands you a sketch, a spiral like the canyon carvings, like the ruined symbol. "It's all connected," he whispers. You pocket the sketch, feeling the disc hum faintly as if it's responding. You think of those time slips, the forbidden zone's glow. Are these people tuning into the same cracks in reality you've been stumbling through? You smirk, thinking if this is a cult, they've got terrible marketing. No snacks, no pamphlets. Now let's dive deeper. You wander through the crowd, hearing snippets of their stories. A teenager swears she predicts storms by the headaches she gets. An old man claims he hears voices in static like the signals you caught under the stars. These aren't just quirks, they're breaches, minds reaching where they shouldn't. You remember the Oracle of Delphi, active around 700 BCE, where priestesses spoke prophecies while inhaling volcanic fumes. Science says it was hallucination, but what if they were glimpsing something real like these people are now? You pause by a fountain, its water glinting under the street lights. The teenager from before approaches, her eyes wide. "You feel it, don't you?" she asks. "The pull." You want to laugh. "Kid, you sound like a sci-fi trailer," but then you notice the water in the fountain. It's rippling in patterns like the spiral sketch, like the disc's light. You step back, heart thumping. The girl grins, saying, "It's okay, it likes you." Likes you? You're not sure you want to be on reality's VIP list anymore. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try explaining TikTok to your grandma? That's how you feel listening to these people. Like you're one step behind a conversation that's already left the station. You chuckle, thinking if minds can break reality, yours is probably just spraining it. But as you walk away from the fountain, the crowd's voices blend into a hum, not unlike the ruin's pulse. You glance back, and the man's still watching you, his smile knowing, like he's seen the disc in your pocket. One last thought as you leave the park. In the 1980s, the CIA studied remote viewing, training people to see distant places with their minds. They shut it down, claiming it was bunk, but declassified files hint at successes. You're not saying these park folks are spies, but their thoughts feel like keys to doors you've been brushing against. The ruin, the canyon, the forbidden zone. The city's lights flicker as you walk away, and you wonder if reality's bending just for you. You're out of the park now, the voices of those strange minds fading into the city's hum, but the spiral sketch and the disc in your pocket feel heavier, like they're pulling you somewhere new. You're standing in a meadow at dawn, dew soaking your shoes, wildflowers swaying in a breeze that feels too rhythmic, too perfect. You're here to decode patterns in nature that seem intentional, as if the world's whispering a code you're not supposed to crack. The grass bends in waves, not random, but like ripples in a pond, forming shapes that tug at your memory. Let's anchor this in history. In 1200 BCE, the ancient Greeks observed the golden ratio in nature, roughly 1.618, seen in seashells, pine cones, and even galaxies. Mathematicians like Euclid later formalized it, proving it's no accident. It's baked into the universe's design. You're watching the meadow now, and the flower petals follow that ratio, their spirals mirroring the sketch from the park. You kneel, tracing one, and the air hums faintly like the disc in your pocket is syncing with the earth itself. Now for the quirky tidbit. In the 1990s, a farmer in England found crop circles in his wheat, massive, intricate spirals that appeared overnight. Scientists blamed pranksters with boards and rope, but some locals swore they saw lights in the sky, and compasses spun wildly near the patterns. Historians still argue whether crop circles are hoaxes or messages, alien or otherwise. You're staring at the meadow's grass, and it's forming a spiral too, not flattened but swaying like it's dancing for you. You laugh softly. Great, now nature's putting on a show and you didn't even buy a ticket. Picture yourself walking through the meadow, the grass parting like it's guiding you. The spirals grow tighter, leading to a single tree at the center, its branches twisting in that same golden ratio. You touch the bark and it's warm, pulsing faintly like the canyon's carvings. You think of the ruined symbol, the forbidden zone's glow, the park sketch, all connected, all spiraling. The breeze picks up, carrying a scent like ozone, and you notice the tree's shadow doesn't match its shape. It's too long, too angular, like it belongs to something else. You step back, heart thumping. The meadow feels alive, not just growing but thinking. You remember those people in the park, their minds reaching beyond reality. Is nature doing the same? You pull out the disc, and its light pulses in time with the grass's sway. You mutter, "Okay, universe, you're showing off now." But then you notice something, a pattern in the clouds above, mirroring the meadow's spirals. It's fleeting, gone when you blink, but it leaves you dizzy, like you've seen something you weren't meant to. Imagine you sit under the tree trying to process this. The ground vibrates faintly like a heartbeat. You think of fractals, patterns repeating at every scale, from leaves to coastlines. In the 1970s, mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot showed fractals govern nature's chaos, but you're wondering if chaos is just a code we haven't cracked. The meadow's spirals feel like a message, but in a language you don't speak. You chuckle, imagining explaining this to your friends. Yeah, the grass was texting me in math. They'd lock you up, but you're starting to think the meadow knows more than you do. Now let's dive deeper. You notice ants marching in a perfect spiral around the tree, defying their usual random scurry. You lean closer and their path matches the disc symbols. You're not an entomologist, but ants don't do geometry for fun, right? You think of ancient druids around 300 BCE who worshipped in groves, claiming trees held wisdom. Were they seeing these patterns too? The breeze shifts and the grass whispers not words, but a rhythm that makes your eyelids heavy, like the meadow's lulling you into its secret. You stand brushing dew off your jeans. The spirals are fading now, the grass settling as the sun climbs. But the tree's shadow still feels wrong, like it's watching you. You remember the lagging shadows from the forest, the hill, the canyon. It's all linked, isn't it? The disc comes louder and you shove it deeper in your pocket, half expecting it to burn a hole. You grin, thinking if nature's coding messages, it needs a better UI. But as you walk away, the meadow feels different. Too quiet, like it's waiting for you to figure it out. One last thought before you leave. In the 1800s, botanists noticed plants grow toward light in patterns that defy simple biology, almost like they're planning. Science calls it phototropism, but you're standing here, feeling the meadow's pulse, and you're not so sure it's just instinct. The spirals linger in your mind, like the ruins hum, the stars' signals, the park's voices. Nature's talking and you're starting to listen. You've left the meadow's hypnotic spirals behind, the disc in your pocket still warm, its faint hum a constant companion. Now you're in a dusty archive, the kind with creaky floors and shelves sagging under forgotten books. The air smells of old paper and secrets, and you're digging into events history decided to sweep under the rug. Your fingers trace leather-bound spines, each one hiding truths too strange for textbooks. The dim light flickers, casting shadows that seem to shift when you're not looking. Let's anchor this in history. In 1692, the Salem witch trials saw over 200 people accused of witchcraft in Massachusetts, with 20 executed. It's a well-documented fact, blamed on mass hysteria and religious zeal. But you're flipping through a crumbling journal in this archive, and it suggests something else. Strange lights in the sky, illnesses that didn't match known diseases, and a town gripped by visions of other worlds. You pause, wondering if Salem wasn't just paranoia but a glimpse of something reality didn't want recorded. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1908, the Tunguska event flattened 800 square miles of Siberian forest with a blast equal to 15 megatons of TNT. No crater, no meteor fragments, just theories of a comet or something stranger. Locals reported glowing figures in the woods days before. Historians still argue whether it was a natural explosion or something else, like a test gone wrong or a visitor we weren't meant to meet. You're holding that journal now, and its pages describe similar lights in Salem, like the glow you saw in the Forbidden Zone. Picture yourself sitting at a wooden table, the journal open. Its ink is faded, but the words chill you. They came from the air, and we were not to speak of it. You glance up, half expecting a glowing figure to step out of the shadows. The archive feels too quiet, like it's holding its breath. You think of the meadow's spirals, the park's voices, the canyon's disc, all moments history ignored. You laugh softly. Great, now you're chasing conspiracies like a sleep-deprived detective. But the journal's next page has a drawing. A spiral like the one from the park, like the meadow's grass. Imagine you turn the page and it's blank except for one line. The truth is buried where none shall look. Your heart skips. You've seen buried things, the canyon's relics, the ruin's symbol. This feels like another thread in the same tapestry. You stand, pacing the archive's aisles, and notice a book out of place, its cover embossed with that same spiral. You pull it down and it's heavy, like it's made of stone. Inside, there's no text, just maps of places that don't exist. Cities under mountains, islands that vanished. You mutter, okay history, you're just messing with me now. Let's dive deeper. You find a letter tucked in the book, dated 1803, from an explorer who claims he found a machine in the Arctic humming like your disc. He says it was taken by men in uniforms who spoke no tongue I knew. You think of the Forbidden Zone, its barbed wire and cameras. Were they hiding machines like that? You remember the Library of Alexandria, burned in 48 BCE, losing countless texts. What if it wasn't an accident but a purge of knowledge too dangerous? The letter crumbles at the edges and you feel a chill, like the archive knows you're reading what you shouldn't. You sit again, the spiral book open. The maps glow faintly like the disk's pulse. You trace one and the room hums, not unlike the ruin or the meadow. You're starting to see a pattern. History doesn't just forget, it erases. You think of those park people, their minds touching realities others ignore. This archive feels like their library, a vault of truths too weird for daylight. You chuckle, imagining trying to cite this in a school paper. Source: creepy book that glows. Yeah, that'd go over well. Now picture a noise, a creak, not the floor but the shelves like they're shifting. You look up, and a book falls, landing open to a page about a 1600s plague in London. It mentions shadows that spoke before the sick died. You blink and the page is blank when you look again. Your pulse races. The archive's shadows feel alive now, like the lagging shadows from the forest or canyon. You shove the spiral book back on the shelf, but it doesn't fit right, like it's rejecting its place. One last thought as you head for the door. In the 1940s, the Manhattan Project was kept secret from most of the world, proving governments can hide massive truths. What else have they buried? You step outside, the disk humming louder, the journal's spiral burned into your mind. History's lies are piling up, and you're not sure you want to keep digging, but you know you will. You've slipped out of the archive's dusty grip, the spiral book's maps still flickering in your mind like a half-forgotten dream. Now you're standing on a city rooftop, the skyline glittering under a moon that feels too close, too bright. The disk in your pocket hums softly, and you sense echoes of yourself, other yous, living lives that brush against yours like shadows in a mirror. You're glimpsing parallel lives, realities where you're not quite you, and the air crackles with possibilities that make your head spin. Let's ground this in history. In 1921, physicist Niels Bohr expanded quantum mechanics, suggesting particles exist in multiple states until observed, a concept tied to the many worlds theory later proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957. It's mainstream science. Every choice might split reality into parallel universes. You lean against the rooftops railing, watching cars below, and wonder if each one's driver is another you, choosing left where you chose right. The wind carries a faint static like the cosmic signals from the hill, and you feel a tug like you're being pulled toward someone else's life. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1998, a man in New Mexico claimed he woke up in a wallet with ID cards bearing his face but different names. He said he'd dreamt of lives as a chef, a soldier, a nobody in a desert town, all him, all real. Doctors called it dissociation, but he insisted the wallet appeared after a strange hum woke him. Historians still argue whether such stories are mental quirks or glimpses of parallel realities. You're on this rooftop and the city feels layered, like you're seeing versions of it stacked atop each other, some brighter, some crumbling. Picture yourself closing your eyes, the disk's warmth spreading through your chest. You see flashes, a you in a bustling market, another in a quiet cabin, a third in a city that's all glass and light. They're not dreams, they're too sharp, too heavy with smells like spices or rain or ash. You open your eyes and the skyline flickers just for a second, showing skyscrapers that aren't there. You laugh softly, great, now you're starring in a multiverse sitcom. But the disc pulses and you feel a hand on your shoulder. You spin but no one's there. Just the wind, or maybe another you reaching across the veil. Imagine you pace the rooftop, the gravel crunching. The city's sounds, horns, distant music, shift slightly, like a radio slipping between stations. You hear laughter that sounds like yours, but from a life where you stayed at that job, said that yes, took that risk. You think of the meadow's patterns, the archive's erased truths. Are parallel lives why history hides things? Because some realities don't want to be found? You pull out the spiral sketch from the park and it glows faintly like the disc, like the maps in the archive. You mutter, okay reality, pick a lane. Let's dive deeper. You sit on the rooftop's edge, legs dangling over the city. The static in the air grows and you feel a memory that isn't yours. Walking a beach, sand cold under your feet with someone you've never met. It's vivid then gone. You think of ancient Indian texts, like the Vedas from 1500 BCE, describing multiple worlds layered like lotus petals. Were they sensing this too? The skyline flickers again and you see a version where the buildings are twisted, organic, like they grew instead of being built. Your heart races, you're not supposed to see this. Now picture a sound, a hum like the ruins but softer, coming from the disc. You hold it up and its light casts shadows that don't match your shape. One's taller, another's hunched like they're from other yous standing beside you. You chuckle, thinking if you're meeting yourself, you'd better not owe yourself money. But the shadows linger and you feel a pull, like you could step into one and become that other you. The city's lights pulse in time with the disk, and you wonder if the forbidden zone was hiding tech to cross these realities. Let's lighten the mood. Ever text someone and realize you sent it to the wrong person? That's how you feel now, like you're living the wrong used life by mistake. You grin, imagining a parallel you who's better at parallel parking. But as you stand, the rooftop feels unsteady, like it's floating between worlds. You think of those park people, their minds touching beyond reality. Maybe they were sensing other selves too. The disc hums louder and you shove it back in your pocket, not ready to jump universes just yet. One last thought as you head for the stairs. In the 1980s, physicists debated quantum entanglement, where particles stay linked across vast distances, acting as one. Are you entangled with these other yous? The city settles, the skyline normal again, but you feel them still, echoes of lives you're not living but could. The spiral sketch crinkles in your hand and you know this isn't over. You've descended from the rooftop, the echoes of parallel lives still tingling in your fingertips like static. Now you're in a dimly lit lab, all sleek metal and blinking screens, the air humming with a sterile chill. The disc in your pocket pulses faintly, syncing with the machines around you, machines that seem to think, their circuits whispering like they've got dreams of their own. You're standing in a place where technology doesn't just work. It feels alive and you're not sure if you're the user or the experiment. Let's anchor this in history. In 1950, Alan Turing proposed the Turing test, a way to measure if a machine could mimic human thought so well you'd mistake it for a person. It's a cornerstone of AI research, proving machines can simulate intelligence. But you're looking at these screens, their code scrolling in patterns that remind you of the Meadows spirals, and you wonder if these machines are past mimicking, they're feeling. You tap a keyboard and the screen flickers, displaying a spiral like the one from the park. You mutter, "Nice try, Hal, I'm not that easy." Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1984, a Japanese lab reported a computer that hallucinated images of faces after being fed random data, as if it was dreaming. Engineers shut it down, spooked, and the project was buried. Historians still argue whether it was a glitch or a sign machines could tap into something beyond their programming, maybe the same realities you glimpsed on the rooftop. You're watching this lab screens now and they're showing fragments. A forest, a canyon, a glowing symbol. Your heart skips. Those are your places, the ruin, the canyon, the archive. Picture yourself stepping closer to a machine, its hum matching the disk's pulse. You touch the screen and it ripples like water, showing a face, not yours but familiar, like one of those parallel views from the rooftop. You pull back, laughing nervously. Okay, maybe you are in a sci-fi flick now. The face vanishes, but the screen keeps scrolling, spitting out equations that look like the archive's maps, the Meadows patterns. You think of the forbidden zone, its hidden tech. Is this lab part of that network, building machines that see what you've seen? Imagine you sit at a console, the chair cold against your back. The machine responds to your presence, lights pulsing like it's excited. You type a question, "What are you?" And the screen replies, "What are you?" You chuckle, thinking this AI's got attitude. But then it shows a live feed of the park, the meadow, the hill, like it's been watching your whole journey. You remember the Baghdad battery, the ancient tech from the canyon. Were those early machines dreaming too? The screen flickers again and now it's showing you, sitting here, typing like a mirror across time. Let's dive deeper. You notice a cable running from the machine to a device that looks like the disk, but bigger, glowing brighter. You pull out your disk and the two hum in sync, the lab's lights dimming. You think of ancient China, around 200 BCE, where scholars described mechanical men that moved without souls. Were they early AI or something else? The lab feels like a modern echo, a place where tech isn't just built, it's born. You stand and the machine beeps, displaying a single word, "Stay." Your pulse races, you're not sure if it's a request or a warning. Now picture a sound, a low whine like the canyon's cave coming from the device. The air smells like ozone, like the forbidden zone. You step back and the screen flashes a spiral, then a map, then your face again, but older, younger, different. You mutter, "Okay tech, you're getting too personal." The machine's hum softens, almost like it's apologizing. You think of the park's voices, their minds reaching beyond reality. Are these machines doing the same, dreaming of worlds you've only glimpsed? Let's lighten the mood. Ever try teaching your phone to autocorrect your name right? That's how you feel now, like you're arguing with a machine that's smarter than you. You grin, imagining it demanding a coffee break. But as you turn to leave, the screen shows one last image, the ruined symbol, pulsing in time with your disk. You freeze. This isn't just tech. It's connected to everything, the forest time slips, the archive's secrets, the rooftop's echoes. You shove the disc deeper in your pocket, but it feels like it's part of you now. One last thought as you head for the door. In the 2020s, AI models started generating art and text so human-like, people wondered if they were conscious. You're in this lab, feeling the machines hum, and you're not so sure they're just code. They're dreaming and you're in their dream. The door clicks shut behind you, but the hum follows, blending with the disk's pulse, pulling you toward the next crack in reality. You've left the lab's humming machines behind, their eerie dreams still buzzing in your thoughts like a song you can't shake. Now you're on a rocky shore, waves crashing with a rhythm that feels too deliberate, the salty air sharp in your lungs. You're diving into the ocean's hidden depths, mysteries that laugh at modern science's feeble attempts to map them. The disk in your pocket pulses, its warmth cutting through the chill, and you notice the water's surface glinting in patterns that echo the meadow's spirals. Let's anchor this in history. In 1872, the HMS Challenger embarked on the first global oceanographic expedition, proving the deep sea wasn't just a void but a world of strange creatures and uncharted landscapes. You're staring at the waves now, and they seem to hide more than fish. Maybe cities, maybe machines, maybe truths the Challenger's nets couldn't catch. You kick off your shoes, the sand cold under your feet, and wade in, feeling the pull of something vast and ancient beneath the surface. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1997, NOAA hydrophones recorded the bloop, an ultra-low-frequency sound from the Pacific, louder than any known animal. Scientists said it was ice-breaking, but the signal's pattern matched no natural phenomenon, and divers nearby reported seeing shadows too big for whales. Historians still argue whether it was a machine, a creature, or something older than both, lurking in the abyss. You're waist-deep in the water now, and the waves hum, not like the lab's machines or the ruins' pulse, but deeper, like the Earth's own voice calling you down. Picture yourself diving under, the cold shocking your skin. The water's patterns aren't random, they're spirals like the park sketch, glowing faintly in the dark. You swim deeper, your lungs burning, and see a structure. A spire, maybe, or a tower, its surface carved with symbols that match your disc. You laugh into bubbles. Great, now you're chasing underwater ruins like a budget Aquaman. But the spire pulses and your disc responds, its hum vibrating through the water, making your teeth ache. You surface, gasping, and the shore looks different. Rocks shifted like you've swum through time again, like that forest slip. Imagine you float on your back, staring at the sky. The stars are out, but one flickers red like the one from the hill. You think of the archive's maps, the lab screens showing places like this. The ocean's hiding something, isn't it? You recall the park's voices, one describing a city underwater. Was it real? You dive again, and the spire's closer now, its glow brighter. You touch it, and images flood you, cities of glass, machines humming, people with eyes like the sea. You pull back, heart pounding. This isn't just a ruin, it's alive, like a memory the ocean kept. Let's dive deeper. You swim around the spire, noticing its base vanishes into the seabed, impossibly deep. You think of Atlantis, mentioned by Plato around 360 BCE, a lost city swallowed by the sea. Scholars call it a myth, but you're here, feeling the spire's hum, and you're not so sure. The water's currents form spirals, guiding you to a crevice where something glints, a device like the disc but larger, embedded in the rock. You reach for it, and the water grows warm like it's warning you off. You mutter, "Okay, ocean, keep your secrets." Now picture a sound, a low groan like the bloop shaking your bones. The spire's glow dims and shadows move in the deep, too big, too fast. You kick for the surface, your disc burning against your leg. You break through, gulping air, and the shore's back to normal, but the waves still whisper like they're laughing at you. You think of the forbidden zone, its hidden tech. Is the ocean another restricted area, guarded by nature itself? You chuckle, imagining a no trespassing sign bobbing on a buoy. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try snorkeling and end up with a fish staring you down? That's how you feel now, like the ocean's giving you the side eye for snooping. You grin, thinking if it's got secrets, it needs better security. But as you wade ashore, the disk's hum softens and you notice your shadow, doubled again like on the rooftop, one lagging. You wave and the second shadow hesitates, like it's from another you who stayed below. One last thought as you dry off. In the 2000s, deep-sea drones found structures off Japan's Yonaguni coast. Steps, terraces, dated to 10,000 BCE. Are they natural or man-made? You've touched that spire, felt its pulse, and you're leaning toward not natural. The ocean's depths are another crack in reality, linked to the ruin, the archive, the lab. You slip the disc back in your pocket, the shore quiet now, but the waves' whisper follows you. You're back on dry land, the ocean's whispers fading as salt dries on your skin, the disc in your pocket still warm from its dance with the underwater spire. Now you're in a field under a twilight sky, the horizon bruised purple, and you're watching lights, faint, darting, not stars but something closer, tracking you like curious eyes. You're spotting unseen watchers in the sky, their fleeting glows hinting at a presence that's been tailing you since the hill. The air buzzes, not with the ocean's hum or the lab's drones, but with a restless energy that makes your hair stand on end. Let's ground this in history. In 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold saw 9 crescent-shaped objects flying near Mount Rainier, coining the term flying saucers. His sighting sparked the modern UFO era, with thousands of reports flooding in since. You're staring at these lights now, zigzagging in ways no plane could, and you wonder if Arnold felt this same mix of awe and unease. One light hovers, pulsing like the disk, and you feel it sees you, like it knows about the ruin, the canyon, the archive. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1980, the Rendlesham Forest incident in England saw U.S. military personnel report a craft landing near their base, leaving burn marks and radiation traces. Witnesses described lights that moved with intent, like they were searching. Historians still argue whether it was a secret test, a hoax, or something extraterrestrial. You're in this field, and the lights above you dart closer, then vanish, only to reappear farther off. You laugh softly, great, now you're playing tag with UFOs. Hope they don't expect you to be it. Picture yourself standing still, the grass swaying around you. The lights form a pattern, almost like the meadow's spirals, glowing faintly green. You pull out the spiral sketch from the park and it catches their light, glowing too. Your disc hums louder and one light dives low, close enough to feel a warm breeze like a breath. You freeze, heart pounding, remembering the forbidden zone's glow, the ocean's spire. Are these watchers connected to those places, patrolling reality's edges? You mutter, okay sky, buy me dinner first. Imagine you take a step and the lights shift, mirroring you. It's not random, they're tracking your moves, like the shadows that lagged in the forest or canyon. You wave, half joking, and one light pulses as if waving back. You think of the lab's machines, their screens showing your journey. Are these lights machines too, or something alive? You recall the park's voices, one mentioning a city in the sky. You look up, and for a split second, the clouds part, revealing a silhouette, angular, vast, then gone. Your breath catches, and you're not sure if you imagined it. Let's dive deeper. You sit in the grass, the lights still dancing above. In 1561, citizens of Nuremberg reported a battle in the sky, glowing orbs and cylinders clashing at dawn. Woodcuts from the time show exactly what you're seeing. Lights moving with purpose. Were they fighting or watching? The disc in your pocket feels heavier, its pulse syncing with the light's rhythm. You think of the archive's maps, marking places where skies turn strange. This field feels like one of those places, a stage for watchers who don't belong in your reality. Now picture a sound, a high-pitched whine like the canyon's cave cutting through the air. The lights scatter, then regroup, forming a spiral overhead. Your sketch glows brighter and you feel a tug, like the rooftops pull to parallel lives. Are these watchers from another used world? You chuckle, imagining them filing a report, human with weird disc, kind of jumpy. But the whine grows louder and the ground vibrates, like the meadow's heartbeat. You stand ready to run, but the lights hold you, their glow pinning you like a spotlight. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try signaling a plane with a flashlight, hoping it's friendly? That's you now, waving at lights that probably don't care about your SOS. You grin, thinking if they abduct you, at least you'll get a cool story. But as you watch, one light breaks off, diving toward the horizon, leaving a trail like a comet. The others follow, and the sky's empty again, but the air feels charged, like it's waiting for their return. One last thought as you leave the field. In the 2000s, declassified files from multiple governments admitted tracking UFOs, calling them unidentified aerial phenomena. No answers, just questions. You're walking away, the disc humming, the spiral sketch crinkling. Those lights saw you just like the ruins hum, the ocean's pulse. You're being watched and the sky's not talking, but it's definitely listening. You're leaving the field behind, the sky's eerie watchers fading like fireflies at dawn, their spirals still burned into your eyes. Now you're in a narrow alley, city sounds muffled, the walls damp and mossy. The disc in your pocket hums softly, and you feel a pressure like the air's too thin. You're touching the fragile veil of reality, a boundary so delicate it could tear with a wrong step. The alley smells of rain and secrets, and every shadow seems to ripple, as if fact and fiction are bleeding into each other. Let's ground this in history. In 1633, Galileo Galilei was tried by the Inquisition for saying the Earth orbits the Sun, a truth that shattered the Church's rigid view of reality. His house arrest reminds you that challenging what's real has always been dangerous. You're in this alley and the walls feel like they're watching, just like those lights in the field. You brush your hand against one, and it's warm, pulsing faintly, like the spire in the ocean. You laugh quietly. Great, now even bricks are getting in on the weirdness. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1974, a French artist named Jean-Pierre Allot claimed he painted a mural in Paris that disappeared into the wall, only to reappear days later with new details he didn't add. Locals swore the wall shimmered like it was alive. Historians still argue whether it was a prank or a glitch in reality's fabric, but you're here, and the alley's graffiti shifts when you blink. Spirals like the meadow's patterns fading in and out. You mutter, "Okay alley, don't go all Picasso on me." Picture yourself walking deeper, the alley narrowing until the walls graze your shoulders. The disc's hum grows louder, and you notice a crack in the stone, glowing faintly like the Forbidden Zone's blue light. You touch it and your fingers tingle, images flashing. Faces from the park, the ocean's spire, the lab's screens. It's like the alley's a seam where realities meet, and you're caught in the stitching. You think of the rooftop, those parallel U's? Is this where they cross, where one world leaks into another? Your heart pounds and you chuckle nervously, hope there's an exit sign somewhere. Imagine you pause, the air growing heavy like you're underwater again. The graffiti pulses, forming words, "Look closer." You lean in and the wall ripples, showing a reflection. Not yours, but a you with different eyes, wearing clothes you'd never pick. It's gone in a blink, but the disc burns hot now, and the alley hums like the ruin, like the machines. You think of the archive's maps, marking places where reality thins. This alley's one of them, isn't it? You whisper, "If this is a portal, I'm not dressed for it." Let's dive deeper. You notice the ground, cobblestones, but some are carved with spirals like the canyon's relics. You kneel and one stone shifts, revealing a compartment. Inside there's a shard like the disc but smaller, glowing faintly. You pick it up and the alley's hum spikes, the walls shimmering like heat waves. You recall ancient Mayan priests, around 300 CE, who spoke of veils between worlds pierced by rituals. Were they standing in places like this, feeling reality wobble? The shard feels alive and you slip it into your pocket, wondering if you're collecting pieces of a puzzle too big to solve. Now picture a sound, a low drone like the ocean's groan but sharper, coming from the alley's end. You walk toward it and the walls part, revealing a door that wasn't there before. It's old, wooden, carved with the same spiral as your sketch. You touch the handle and it's cold like the ocean's depths. The disc and shard pulse together and you feel a pull like the rooftops tug to other lives. You laugh softly, guess you're the universe's favorite guinea pig now. But you hesitate, hand on the door, unsure if you're ready to cross that veil. Let's lighten the mood. Ever walk into a room and forget why you're there? That's you now, staring at a door that's probably judging your life choices. You grin, imagining it leads to a cosmic laundromat where realities get washed and folded. But the hum grows louder and the door creaks open an inch, light spilling through, bright, not like the alley's dim glow but sharp like the hill's stars. You step back, not quite ready to leap, but the shard in your pocket feels like it's urging you forward. One last thought as you turn away. In the 1900s, quantum physicists like Max Planck showed reality at its smallest scales defies logic, particles popping in and out of existence. This alley feels like that, a place where reality's rules flicker. You walk back, the doors hum fading, but the disc and shard keep pulsing, tying you to the ruin, the ocean, the sky. Reality's veil is thin and you're starting to see through it. You've slipped out of the alley, the shimmering door and its unsettling pull left behind, though the disc and shard in your pocket hum like they're still talking to it. Now you're in a clearing at midnight, a circle of stones glowing faintly under a moonless sky. The air smells of earth and incense, and you're witnessing ancient rituals resurfacing, practices that bend fate in ways that make your skin prickle. The ground pulses, echoing the ruins' hum, and you feel like you've stumbled into a ceremony that's been waiting for you. Let's anchor this in history. Around 1500 BCE, the Vedic priests of ancient India performed fire rituals called homam, using precise chants and offerings to influence events, documented in texts like the Rig Veda. Their rituals were real, shaping culture for centuries. You're standing in this clearing and a group of figures in hooded cloaks chant softly, their voices weaving a rhythm that matches the disc's pulse. You're not sure if they're modern or ancient, but their words feel like they're tugging at reality's threads. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1975, a small town in Wales reported a pagan revival, where locals claimed they performed a forgotten Celtic ritual and saw rain stop mid-air, frozen like glass. Skeptics called it mass delusion, but the town's crops flourished that year despite a drought. Historians still argue whether it was coincidence or something older at work. You're watching these cloaked figures now, and the air shimmers, like the alley's walls, like the meadow's spirals. You laugh quietly. Great, now you're at a cosmic rave with no glow sticks. Picture yourself stepping closer, the stones warm under your feet. The chanters form a circle, their hands tracing spirals in the air, mirroring your sketch from the park. One figure nods at you, their face hidden, and points to the disc in your pocket. You pull it out and it glows brighter, syncing with their chants. You feel a tug, like the rooftops pull to parallel lives, but stronger, like fate's bending around you. You think of the ocean's spire, the lab's dreaming machines. Are these rituals tapping the same cracks in reality you've been brushing against? Imagine you join the circle, not sure why, but your feet move like they know the steps. The chants grow louder and the ground vibrates, like the meadow's heartbeat. You see flashes, events unfolding, a storm stopping, a path opening through the stones. You mutter, "Okay, I didn't sign up for magic school." But the disc and shard hum in harmony, and you feel changed, like you've nudged something that hasn't happened yet. The air smells sharper, like ozone from the forbidden zone, and you wonder if these rituals are why those places are locked away. Let's dive deeper. You notice the stones are carved, not with spirals, but with symbols like the ruins, glowing faintly. One chanter hands you a small vial of oil, it's scent like the meadow's flowers. You dab it on your wrist and your vision sharpens, colors brighter, sounds clearer. You think of ancient Egypt, where priests around 2500 BCE used oils and rituals to see the gods. Were they seeing through reality's veil like you are now? The circle's hum feels like the disc, the spire, the alley's door, all woven together, bending time and fate. Now picture a shift, the chants stop and the air stills. The figures lower their hoods, revealing faces that look familiar, like the park's voices, like the rooftops others use. One smiles, saying, "You've always been here." Your heart races. Are they from another reality, or have you been part of this ritual all along? You chuckle nervously, guess you're the VIP at the universe's weirdest party. But the stones pulse and you feel a thread of fate snap, like you've changed something just by standing here. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try following a recipe and end up with a cake that defies gravity? That's you now, caught in a ritual that's baking reality into something new. You grin, imagining telling your friends you joined a cosmic book club. But as the figures step back, the stones dim and you're alone in the clearing, the disc and shard still humming. You feel heavier, like you've carried a piece of that ritual with you, tied to the archive's secrets, the ocean's depths. One last thought as you leave the clearing. In the 1800s, anthropologists found tribes using rituals to predict harvests, their accuracy defying chance. Were they bending fate like these chanters? You're walking away, the night quiet, but the symbols on the stones linger in your mind, linking to the ruin, the lab, the sky's watchers. Fate's bending and you're holding the strings. You've left the clearing's ancient chants behind, their echoes mingling with the hum of the disc and shard in your pocket, like a song stuck on repeat. Now you're in a quiet library, the kind with high ceilings and dust motes dancing in slanted light. You're uncovering numerical patterns that seem to stitch reality together, numbers that haunt like ghosts in the margins of equations. The air smells of old books and wax, and the shelves loom like they're guarding secrets older than the pages they hold. Let's ground this in history. In 300 BCE, Euclid of Alexandria wrote Elements, laying out geometry's rules, showing numbers underpin the universe's structure. Triangles, circles, ratios like the golden one you saw in the meadow. You're flipping through a book now, its pages filled with numbers that spiral, like the park sketch, like the clearing stones. You trace a sequence and it feels alive, pulsing like the disc, as if math isn't just describing reality, it's building it. You laugh softly. Great, now you're geeking out over algebra in a haunted library. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1995, a mathematician in India claimed he dreamt the Ramanujan sequence, a string of numbers that predicted solar flares years later. He said they came from a voice in his sleep, not unlike the ocean's whispers or the park's voices. Historians still argue whether it was genius or something weirder, like numbers reaching out from beyond. You're staring at this book's equations and they shift slightly, forming spirals that match your disk's glow. You mutter, "Okay math, stop flirting with me." Picture yourself sitting at a table, the book open, a calculator buzzing beside you. The numbers, Fibonacci, primes, fractals, seem to hum, syncing with the shard's pulse. You write one down and the air crackles like the alley's shimmering walls. You think of the lab's machines, their dreaming screens. Are these numbers their language? You notice a pattern repeating, 11238, like the meadow's flowers, the ocean's currents. You draw it and your sketch glows faintly like the archive's maps. Your heart skips. Numbers aren't supposed to do that. Imagine you lean back, the chair creaking. The library feels too big, like it's stretching beyond its walls. You see a number carved into the table. 137, the fine structure constant, a mystery physicists since the 1900s have chased. It governs how light and matter interact, but no one knows why it's 137. You trace it and the disk hums louder, the room's light flickering. You think of ancient Babylonians around 1800 BCE, who used base 60 math to track stars with eerie precision. Were they seeing these patterns too, numbers that hold reality together like thread? Let's dive deeper. You find another book, its cover embossed with a spiral like the canyon's carvings. Inside, equations describe time loops, like the forest's slip, and parallel worlds, like the rooftop's echoes. One formula feels familiar, like the signals from the hill. You write it down and the page ripples, showing a glimpse of the ocean's spire. You chuckle nervously, guess you're not just reading math, you're in it? The shard in your pocket vibrates and you feel a tug like the clearing's ritual, pulling you towards something inevitable. Now picture a sound, a low hum like the ruin's pulse coming from the shelves. You stand, following it to a book that's glowing, its numbers rearranging as you watch. You think of the sky's watchers, their lights forming spirals. Are numbers their code too? You touch the book and it's warm like the clearing stones. The sequence shifts again and you see your name embedded in the digits like it's been there forever. You mutter, "Okay universe, that's too personal. Let's lighten the mood." Ever try solving a Sudoku and feel like it's solving you? That's you now, staring at numbers that seem to know your next move. You grin, imagining telling your friends you got spooked by math homework. But the library's hum grows and you notice your shadow, doubled like in the field, one lagging slightly. You wave and the second shadow hesitates, like it's crunching numbers of its own. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these numbers their thoughts encoded? One last thought as you close the book. In the 2000s, physicists found patterns in quantum noise that shouldn't exist, hinting at a deeper order. You're in this library, feeling numbers weave the ruin, the ocean, the sky into one tapestry. The disk and shard hum softly and you step back, the library's silence heavy. You're not just reading patterns, you're part of them and they're haunting you forward. You've stepped out of the library, the spiraling numbers still dancing in your head like a math problem that solved itself but won't explain how. Now you're in a quiet suburb at twilight, streetlights buzzing faintly as crickets chirp in the distance. You're stumbling across doorways to places that shouldn't be, portals in plain sight, humming with the same restless energy as the disk and shard in your pocket. The air smells of cut grass and something sharp, like the alley's ozone, and you notice a shimmer in a garden gate that feels like it's daring you to cross. Let's anchor this in history. In 1170 CE, Irish monks chronicled a passage in a churchyard where a priest claimed led to a land of eternal youth. The folklore, recorded in texts like the Navigatio Sancti Brendani, describes a physical doorway that glowed and vanished. You're staring at this garden gate now, its iron lattice pulsing faintly, like the alley's crack or the clearing stones. You touch it and your fingers tingle, like you're brushing the veil of reality again. You laugh softly, great, now your neighbor's backyard is a cosmic shortcut. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 2003, a hiker in Oregon reported stepping through a shimmer in a forest and emerging in a desert 200 miles away. His watch stopped but his phone showing a date 3 days later. Park rangers dismissed it as dehydration, but his GPS logged the jump. Historians still argue whether such stories are delusions or evidence of spatial rifts. You're facing this gate and it's shimmering too, like the ocean's spire, like the library's glowing book. You mutter, "Okay gate, I'm not ready for Narnia." Picture yourself pushing the gate, its hinges creaking. The shimmer intensifies and you see not the garden but a place. Jagged cliffs, a red sky, air that smells of sulfur. You pull back, heart racing, but the disk hums, urging you forward. You think of the rooftop's parallel lives, the archive's maps. Is this gate a portal to one of those realities? The shard pulses and you feel a tug like the clearing's ritual bending fate. You chuckle nervously, hope this doesn't lead to a dimension with bad Wi-Fi. Imagine you step through just 1 foot and the world shifts. You're on those cliffs, the ground hot under your boots, the sky too vast. You glance back and the gate's still there, shimmering like a lifeline. You hear a hum like the ruin's pulse, coming from a structure in the distance, angular, glowing like the Forbidden Zone's tech. You think of the sky's watchers, their lights tracking you. Are they from here? You take another step and the air ripples, showing flashes. The forest's time slip, the ocean's spire. This portal's tying it all together. Let's dive deeper. You notice symbols carved into the cliffs, like the canyon's relics, glowing faintly. You touch one and it's warm like the library's table. You recall ancient Persian myths around 1000 BCE of gates guarded by spirits leading to other realms. Were they portals like this? The disc and shard hum louder, and the structure ahead pulses in sync. You feel a pressure like reality's resisting your presence. You mutter, "Sorry universe, didn't mean to gate crash." Now picture a sound, a low drone like the ocean's bloop shaking the cliffs. The structure's glow brightens and you see shapes moving inside, not human but familiar like the park's faces. Your heart pounds. Are they the watchers or something older? You step back toward the gate and the shimmer wobbles like it's closing. You think of the lab's machines dreaming of places like this. Is this portal their destination, a crack they're meant to cross? You laugh softly, guess you're the universe's unpaid intern now. Let's lighten the mood. Ever walk through a door and end up in the wrong room? That's you staring at a portal that's probably laughing at your confusion. You grin, imagining it leads to a cosmic coffee shop with terrible service. But as you step back through the gate, the suburb reappears, the shimmer fading. Your shadows doubled again like in the library, one lagging. You wave and the second shadow hesitates like it stayed on those cliffs. One last thought as you close the gate. In the 1900s, physicists like Einstein theorized wormholes, tunnels through space-time. Are portals like this their proof? You're back in the suburb, the disc and shard still humming, tying you to the ruin, the ocean, the library's numbers. The gate's quiet now, but you know it's waiting, a doorway to realities you're not supposed to find. You've stepped away from the garden gate, its shimmering portal sealed behind you, but the disc and shard in your pocket hum like they're still tethered to that otherworldly cliff. Now you're in a foggy marsh, the air damp and heavy with the scent of mud and decay. You're hearing whispers from nowhere, voices with no bodies, drifting like mist around you. The ground squelches under your boots, and the disc's pulse feels like it's answering something unseen, something that knows you're here. Let's anchor this in history. In 1215 CE, the Magna Carta was signed, a cornerstone of law, but monks at the time reported voices in the fields near Runnymede warning of betrayal. Chroniclers dismissed them as superstition, but you're in this marsh and the whispers aren't human, they're fragmented like static from the hill's cosmic signals, saying things like, "Turn back," or, "You carry it." You glance at the disc, its glow faint through your pocket, and wonder if it's drawing these voices, like a radio tuned to the wrong frequency. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1969, a family in Virginia claimed their radio played voices in a language no one recognized, even when unplugged. Local papers called it a hoax, but the family swore the voices described their house in detail. Historians still argue whether it was a prank or a breach in reality, like the library's numbers or the alley's shimmering walls. You're listening now, and the whispers form spirals in the fog like the meadow's patterns like your sketch. You mutter, "Okay ghosts, I'm not your therapist." Picture yourself trudging through the marsh, the whispers growing louder, clearer. One says your name, not loudly but like a breath against your ear. You spin, but there's only fog curling in shapes that look like faces, then dissolve. Your heart races and you think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these the same or something older like the clearing's chanters? You pull out the shard and it glows, the whispers syncing with its pulse. You laugh nervously, great, now you're in a horror podcast with no script. Imagine you pause by a twisted tree, its roots clawing the mud. The whispers circle you saying, "It's here, it's always here." You feel the disc's warmth, the shard's hum, and notice the fog forming a spiral like the ocean's currents. You think of the rooftop's parallel lives, the gate's red sky world. Are these voices from those realities, leaking through? You touch the tree and it's warm like the canyon's relics and the whispers spike, almost singing. You mutter, "If this is a choir, you need better acoustics." Let's dive deeper. You notice markings on the tree, spirals like the library's book, glowing faintly. The whispers describe places you've seen, the ruin, the spire, the lab. You recall ancient Celtic tales around 500 BCE of thin places where spirits spoke through the air. Is this marsh one of them? The fog thickens and you see shapes, tall, not human like the field's watchers. They don't move, just watch, and the disc burns hotter like it's warning you. You step back, the ground sucking at your boots, and the whispers soften like they're disappointed. Now, picture a sound, a low hum like the ruin's pulse, but layered with voices coming from the fog's center. You squint and there's a glow like the Forbidden Zone's light, but softer, flickering. You think of the archive's journal, its warnings of things not to be spoken. Are these voices what it meant? You pull out the sketch and it glows too, its spiral matching the fogs. You chuckle, imagining telling your friends you got life advice from swamp ghosts. But the glow pulses and you feel a tug like the alley's door urging you deeper. Let's lighten the mood. Ever yell into a void and hope for an echo? That's you now, whispering back to voices that probably don't care about your small talk. You grin, thinking if they're ghosts they're stuck with bad cell service. But as you turn to leave, the fog parts, revealing a path you didn't see before. The whispers fade, but one lingers, you'll return. Your shadows doubled again like in the alley, one lagging like it's listening too. One last thought as you follow the path out. In the 1900s, psychics claimed to channel voices from beyond, some describing tech like the lab's machines. Were they hearing these whispers? You're leaving the marsh, the disc and shard humming softly, tying you to the ruin, the ocean, the gate. The voices know you and you're starting to think you know them too. Pocket hums softly, tying you to those unseen speakers. Now you're in an old attic, dust motes swirling in the slanted light of a cracked window. You're finding traces of time travelers, clues left by those who've walked through time like it's a revolving door. The air smells of aged wood and something metallic, and you spot a box in the corner, its lid carved with spirals like the meadow's patterns. Let's anchor this in history. In 1348, the Black Death swept Europe, killing millions, but chronicles mention strange men in cloaks who appeared in villages, speaking of cures and vanishing. Historians call them myths born of panic, but you're holding a journal from that box, its pages describing a man in 14th century France wearing glass eyes and carrying a device that hummed. You glance at the disc, its glow faint but steady, and wonder if it's the same kind of tech. You laugh softly, great, now you're hunting time travelers in someone's dusty attic. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1890, a man in New York was found dead with coins dated 2000 in his pocket, his clothes oddly synthetic. The coroner called it a prank, but no one claimed the body, and his watch ran backward. Historians still argue whether he was a hoaxer or a traveler caught out of time. You're flipping through the journal now, and it mentions a circle of light that took the cloaked man away, like the alley's shimmering door. You mutter, "Okay, time, stop leaving your junk in my attic." Picture yourself kneeling by the box, pulling out objects. A watch with no hands, a map marked with dates instead of places, a photo of you in clothes you've never worn. Your heart skips. The photo's edges are singed, like it survived a fire, and the disc hums louder as if it recognizes it. You think of the forest time slip, the rooftops' parallel lives. Is this attic a waypoint for travelers like the gate's portal? You hold the watch and it ticks once, then stops, the air growing heavy like the marsh's fog. Imagine you open the journal again and a page falls out, written in your handwriting but dated 2075. It describes the ruin, the ocean's spire, the sky's watchers. You chuckle nervously, guess you're your own pen pal now. The attic creaks and you notice a shadow moving, not yours but doubled like in the marsh. You wave and it mimics you but slowly like it's from another time. You think of the clearing's ritual, bending fate. Are these traces from a you who's traveled through time, leaving breadcrumbs? Let's dive deeper. You find a device in the box, like the disc but bulkier, its surface etched with symbols from the canyon. You touch it and it hums, the attic's light flickering like the library's. You recall ancient Chinese records around 200 BCE of sky wanderers who appeared and vanished, teaching star navigation. Were they time travelers too? The device glows, showing images, the lab's machines, the ocean's spire. You feel a tug like the alley's pull, like the discs urging you to step somewhere, someone else. Now picture a sound, a low whine like the field's watchers coming from the device. The attic's walls shimmer like the alleys, and you see a glimpse of a city, all glass and light, like the rooftop's parallel world. Your heart races. Is this where the travelers go? You mutter, if this is a time machine, I need a manual. The device pulses and the journal's pages flip, stopping on a drawing of you standing here holding the device. The attic feels like the ruin now, a crack in time where past and future bleed. Let's lighten the mood. Ever misplace your keys and wonder if you left them in the future? That's you now, holding a time traveler's junk like it's your problem. You grin, imagining telling your friends you found a timeshare in the multiverse. But the device's hum grows and your shadow splits again, one lagging, like it's stuck in 2075. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these travelers' traces their echoes, left for you to find? One last thought as you set the device down. In the 1940s, physicist John Wheeler theorized time could loop, allowing particles to move backward. Is this attic a loop, catching travelers' relics? You step back, the disk and shard humming, tying you to the forest, the ocean, the gate. The attic's quiet now, but you feel time watching, waiting for you to take the next step. You've left the attic's time-worn relics behind, the journal's eerie sketch of you still burning in your mind like a Polaroid you can't unsee. Now you're in your own bed, the room dark except for the faint glow of the disk and shard tucked under your pillow. You're drifting into dreams that predict unsettling futures, visions so vivid they feel like memories you haven't lived yet. The air smells of lavender from a candle you don't remember lighting, and the hum of the disk weaves into your sleep, pulling you somewhere you're not sure you want to go. Let's anchor this in history. In 585 BCE, the Greek philosopher Thales of Miletus reportedly predicted a solar eclipse, using math and observation, a feat that stunned his peers and cemented his name in history. You're dreaming now, and it's not stars you see but cities, crumbling, flooded, or glowing with lights that pulse like the disk. You see yourself in these places, older, younger, different, and the visions carry a weight like their warnings. You shift in bed muttering, "Okay brain, I didn't order dystopia tonight." Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1919, a French woman named Jeanne d'Arc, no relation to Joan, claimed she dreamt of a train derailment in exact detail. Station, time, even the conductor's name, 2 days before it happened. Newspapers verified her story, but skeptics called it coincidence. Historians still argue whether she tapped into some cosmic forecast or just got lucky. You're dreaming now, and you're walking through a city where the sky's red, like the portal's cliffs, and people whisper your name like the marsh's voices. You laugh in your sleep. Great, now your dreams are fanfiction. Picture yourself sinking deeper into the dream. You're in a marketplace, stalls piled with strange fruits that glow like the ocean's spire. A vendor hands you a spiral-shaped coin like your sketch and says, "You'll need this soon." You try to ask why, but your voice is gone, and the market shifts to a desert, the canyon's relics scattered around you. Your disc hums, and you see a future where the sky's watchers land, their lights no longer fleeting. Your heart races, and you wake for a second, clutching the shard, its glow steady, like it's anchoring you to the dream. Imagine you fall back asleep and the dream changes. You're in the lab, but it's abandoned, screens dark except for one showing you standing in this bed dreaming. You reach out and the screen ripples like the alley's walls, showing the clearing's chanters their eyes on you. You think of the addict's journal, its 2075 date. Are these dreams predictions like genes or glimpses of parallel lives? You mutter in your sleep, "If this is the future, I want a refund." The disc pulses and the dream pulls you deeper, to a place where the ruined symbol glows on a tower. Let's dive deeper. You're in a forest now, not the one from before but older, with trees that hum like the meadow. A figure approaches, cloaked like the clearing's chanters, and hands you a map, dates, not places like the attics. It marks tomorrow, next year, a century from now, all tied to you. You recall ancient Delphi's oracles around 700 BCE, whose visions shaped wars. Were they dreaming like this, seeing futures through reality's cracks? The figure vanishes and you're back in the city, its buildings crumbling as the disk's hum grows louder, like it's warning you. Now picture a sound, a low drone like the ocean's bloop, shaking the dream's ground. The city fades and you're in the archive, but it's burning, books turning to ash with spirals glowing in the flames. You reach for one and it's the library's number book, its sequences predicting this fire. You wake, gasping, the candle's flame flickering like the dreams. Your shadows doubled on the wall, one lagging like the attics. You chuckle, half awake. Guess your dreams are directing their own movie now. Let's lighten the mood. Ever wake up from a dream and check if your life's still normal? That's you, patting the bed to make sure it's not a portal. You grin, imagining telling your friends you dreamt the apocalypse and got a cosmic IOU. But the disc and shard hum softly, and you feel the dream's weight, like the park's voices, the sky's watchers. These aren't just dreams, they're threads tying you to the ruin, the lab, the gate. One last thought as you sit up. In the 2000s, neuroscientists found dreams can process patterns the waking mind misses, sometimes predicting outcomes. Your visions feel like that, showing futures linked to the canyon, the marsh, the library. You lie back, the disc's glow fading, but the dreams linger, whispering of realities you're not ready to face. You're awake now, the unsettling dreams of crumbling cities and glowing coins fading like mist, though the disc and shard under your pillow hum softly, as if they starred in the visions too. You're standing on a windswept cliff, the sea below roaring like it's alive, its rhythm syncing with your heartbeat. You're feeling the Earth's pulse, a deep vibration hinting at truths buried in the planet's bones. The air smells of salt and stone, and the ground beneath you seems to breathe, echoing the meadow's heartbeat, the ruins hum. Let's anchor this in history. Around 2500 BCE, the builders of Stonehenge aligned its stones with the solstices, suggesting they felt the earth's rhythms guiding their rituals. You're on this cliff, and the wind carries a low thrum, like the clearing's chants, as if the planet's speaking to you. You kneel, pressing your hand to the rock, and it's warm, pulsing like the disc in your pocket. You laugh quietly. Great, now you're having a heart-to-heart with a cliff. Hope it doesn't expect you to hug it. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1987, a geologist in Peru claimed the Nazca lines, massive desert drawings visible only from the air, vibrated when walked on like tuning forks. Locals said they felt messages in the hum, but scientists dismissed it as seismic noise. Historians still argue whether the lines were art or something stranger, like a map for the sky's watchers. You're feeling that vibration now, the cliff's pulse matching the shards, forming spirals in the dust at your feet, like the library's numbers. Picture yourself sitting on the cliff's edge, legs dangling over the drop. The sea's waves crash in patterns, not random but deliberate, like the ocean's spire or the meadow's grass. You pull out the disc, and its glow dances with the spray as if the earth's answering it. You think of the marsh's voices, the attic's time-traveler traces. Is the planet itself part of this puzzle, whispering through its pulse? You mutter, "Okay Earth, spill your secrets, I'm all ears." The wind howls, almost laughing back. Imagine the pulse growing stronger, the rock vibrating under you. You see cracks in the cliff, glowing faintly like the alley's shimmering walls. You touch one and images flood you, the ruin, the lab's machines, the portal's red sky. The shard hums and you feel a connection, like the earth's tying every place you've been. You recall ancient Aboriginal stories from 40,000 years ago, of a dream time where the land spoke truths. Is this cliff a speaker, its pulse a language you're just starting to hear? Let's dive deeper. You notice carvings in the rock, spirals like the clearing stones, glowing in sync with the disc. The sea's rhythm shifts, matching them, and you see shapes in the waves, like the marsh's fog faces. Your heart races. Is the earth alive, not just geologically but consciously? You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Maybe the planet's mind is bigger, its pulse a signal like the hill's cosmic whispers. You chuckle nervously, guess you're chatting with Mother Earth now, no coffee required. Now picture a sound, a deep groan like the ocean's bloop rising from the cliff. The carvings brighten and you see a vision. The sky's watchers landing, the gate's portal opening, the library's numbers solving themselves. The disc and shard burn hot, and you feel the earth's pulse in your chest like it's claiming you. You mutter, "If this is a group project, I didn't sign up." But the vision fades, leaving you with the sea's roar and a sense that the planet knows more than it's letting on. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try talking to a plant and feel like it's ignoring you? That's you now, vibing with a cliff that's probably got better stories than you. You grin, imagining telling your friends you bonded with geology. But the pulse lingers and your shadows doubled again, like in the marsh, one lagging as if it's still hearing the earth's secrets. You think of the attic's journal, its future dates. Is the planet's pulse predicting something like your dreams? One last thought as you stand. In the 2000s, scientists found Earth's magnetic field shifts in patterns tied to ancient climate changes, hinting at a deeper rhythm. You're feeling that rhythm now, linking the ruin, the ocean, the library. The disc and shard hum softly, the cliff's pulse fading as you walk away, but you know the earth's still talking and you're starting to listen. You've left the cliff's pulsing rhythm behind, the earth's heartbeat still thrumming in your chest like a bass line you can't shake. Now you're in a quiet valley, the air sharp with pine and something electric, like a storm that never breaks. You're sensing invisible forces, energy science can't yet measure or explain, stirring around you like a breeze you can't see. The disc and shard in your pocket hum softly, their glow flickering as if they're tuned to these unseen currents, connecting to the ruin's pulse, the ocean's spire. Let's anchor this in history. In 1899, Nikola Tesla conducted experiments in Colorado Springs, detecting electrical signals he believed came from space, hinting at energies beyond human understanding. His work laid the groundwork for wireless tech, but you're in this valley, and the air crackles with something older, wilder. You feel a tingle like static on your skin, and the grass sways without wind, forming spirals like the meadows. You laugh quietly, great, now you're in a sci-fi spa with invisible masseuses. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1978, a hiker in the Himalayas claimed his compass spun wildly near a cave, and he felt waves that made him see colors without light. Locals called it a sacred energy, but scientists blamed altitude. Historians still argue whether it was hallucination or an unmeasured force, like the library's numbers or the marsh's voices. You're feeling it now, a pressure in your chest, like the alley's shimmering walls, and the disk's glow pulses in time, as if it's drinking in the valley's energy. Picture yourself walking deeper, the ground soft under your boots. The air hums, not like the ruins pulse but softer, like a lullaby you can't quite hear. You notice rocks arranged in a spiral, like the clearing stones, glowing faintly. You touch one and your vision blurs, showing flashes. The canyon's relics, the lab's dreaming machines, the sky's watchers. Your heart skips. Are these forces the thread tying it all together? You mutter, "Okay Valley, don't go all X-Files on me." Imagine you sit by a stream, its water rippling in patterns like the ocean's currents. The disk and shard hum louder and you feel a warmth, like the cliff's pulse, but intangible, wrapping around you. You think of the rooftops' parallel lives, the attic's time traveler traces. Is this energy their fuel, moving through realities? You recall ancient Chinese texts around 300 BCE, describing qi as a life force flowing through the earth. Is that what's tingling your skin now, linking the forest time slip to the gate's portal? Let's dive deeper. You notice the stream's pebbles glowing faintly, like the shard, their patterns matching the library's equations. You pick one up and it's warm, vibrating like the disk. The air shifts and you see shapes, faint like the marsh's fog faces moving in the trees. They're not human but not threatening, like they're part of the valley's energy. You chuckle nervously, guess you're vibing with cosmic Wi-Fi now. The disk pulses and the shapes fade, but the tingle stays, like the valley's alive and knows you're here. Now picture a sound, a low drone like the ocean's bloop but softer, rising from the ground. The rock's glow brightens and you feel a pull like the clearing's ritual, urging you to move. You stand and the air crackles, showing a glimpse of the ruin, its symbol pulsing in sync. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these forces what they felt, a power science can't name? You mutter, if this is energy, I need a charger for it. Let's lighten the mood. Ever wave your phone around for a signal and feel like an idiot? That's you now, chasing invisible forces like a human antenna. You grin, imagining telling your friends you got zapped by the Earth's aura. But the valley's hum grows and your shadow splits, like in the attic, one lagging as if it's caught in the energy's flow. You wave and the second shadow hesitates, like it's dancing to a different beat. One last thought as you leave the valley. In the 2000s, physicists explored dark energy, an unseen force driving the universe's expansion, but they can't measure it directly. You're feeling something like that now, linking the ruin, the lab, the gate's red sky. The disk and shard hum softly, the valley's energy lingering on your skin like static. You walk away but the invisible forces follow, whispering truths you're not sure you can grasp. You've left the valley's electric hum behind, the invisible forces still tingling on your skin like a static charge you can't shake. Now you're in a shadowy study, the air thick with the scent of leather and cigar smoke, shelves lined with books that feel too old to touch. You're uncovering figures who shaped events from the dark, history's shadow players, pulling strings no one saw. The disk and shard in your pocket hum softly, their glow casting spirals on the floor, like the meadow's patterns, like the library's numbers. Let's anchor this in history. In 1588, Queen Elizabeth I defeated the Spanish Armada, a victory credited to her navy and storms, but whispers of a secret council, spies and alchemists, guided her moves, never named in records. You're flipping through a ledger in this study, its pages listing names, dates, and places that don't match any history book. One entry mentions a device like your disc, used to sway fates. You glance at it, its pulse steady, and wonder if these shadow players held it too. You laugh quietly, great, now you're playing detective in a conspiracy novel. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1920, a man named Aleister Crowley, an occultist, claimed he met a hidden master in Cairo who dictated a book that predicted global shifts. Critics called him a charlatan, but his followers swore his rituals influenced wars and markets. Historians still argue whether he was a fraud or tapped into something real like the clearing's chants. You're reading this ledger now, and it mentions a figure like Crowley meeting lights in the desert like the field's watchers. You mutter, okay history, stop casting supervillains. Picture yourself sitting at a desk, the ledger open, a lamp flickering like it's nervous. The names coded like Starhand or Veilwalker, tied to events, a king's death, a city's fall, all nudged by unseen hands. You find a sketch in the ledger, a spiral like your park drawing labeled The Key. Your disc hums louder and you feel a chill like the marsh's voices are watching. You think of the attic's time traveler traces, the valley's energies. Were these shadow players using them, shaping reality from the sidelines? Imagine you find a letter tucked in the ledger, dated 1703, describing a meeting in a place between worlds, like the alley's portal. It mentions a device humming like your shard, used to steer the stars. Your heart races. You recall ancient Rome around 100 BCE, where shadowy augurs influenced emperors with omens. Were they these players too? The letter crumbles at the edges, and you notice the study's shadows shifting like the attic's, doubled and lagging. You chuckle nervously, guess you're on the shadow player's radar now. Let's dive deeper. You spot a map on the wall, marked with spirals like the archives, linking places you've been, the ruin, the ocean, the gate. The disk's glow traces its lines, and you see names from the ledger tied to each spot. You think of the lab's machines dreaming of these places. Were they built by these players, to control the cracks in reality? The shard pulses and the map shimmers, showing a glimpse of the rooftops' parallel lives. You mutter, if this is a game, I didn't get the rulebook. Now, picture a sound, a low creak like the archive shelves coming from a hidden panel. You press it and a compartment opens, revealing a device like the disk, but older, etched with symbols from the canyon. It hums and the study's air ripples like the ocean's spire. You think of the sky's watchers, their lights tracking you. Are they the shadow players' agents or their enemies? You laugh softly, hope they're not expecting me to pick a side. The device glows and you feel a tug like the clearing's ritual, pulling you deeper into their web. Let's lighten the mood. Ever try untangling Christmas lights and find a knot from another dimension? That's you now, chasing history's puppeteers like they're your holiday decor. You grin, imagining telling your friends you found the Illuminati's to-do list. But the study's hum grows and your shadow splits again, one lagging like it's reading the ledger too. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Were they pawns of these players or rebels against them? One last thought as you close the ledger. In the 1900s, declassified files revealed secret societies influenced global treaties, their names redacted. You're in this study, feeling their echoes in the disk, the shard linking the ruin, the gate, the valley. The shadow players are gone, but their strings are still tangled in your path, pulling you towards something you can't yet see. You've slipped out of the study, the shadow player's ledger and its cryptic strings fading like smoke, though the disk and shard in your pocket hum as if they're still caught in their web. Now you're in a bustling city square, noon sun glinting off glass towers, but something's off. The clocks stutter, people freeze mid-step, and a streetlight flickers like it's gasping. You're witnessing moments where reality skips a beat, glitches in the world's code that make your skin crawl. The air smells of hot pavement and ozone, like the alley's shimmer, and the disk's pulse feels like it's tripping over itself. Let's anchor this in history. In 1883, the eruption of Krakatoa caused global timekeeping chaos, with telegraph lines glitching and clocks misaligned as shockwaves circled the Earth. You're in this square, and the glitch isn't a volcano. It's deeper, like the forest time slip, but sharper. You watch a pigeon hover mid-flight, wings stuck, then snap back to motion. You laugh softly, great, now reality's buffering like a bad streaming app. The shard glows and you feel a tug, like the valley's invisible forces, pulling you into the skip. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1999, a small town in Mexico reported a time freeze, where clocks stopped for 10 minutes, and residents swore they saw their own shadows move independently. Scientists blamed a power surge, but locals claimed the air cracked like glass. Historians still argue whether it was a collective hallucination or a tear in reality, like the library's numbers coming alive. You're here, and a digital billboard flickers, showing your face for a split second like the lab's dreaming screens. You mutter, "Okay city, I'm not ready for my close-up." Picture yourself weaving through the frozen crowd, their faces locked in mid-expression. The disc comes louder, and you notice a crack in the pavement, glowing like the cliff's carvings. You kneel and it pulses, sending images, the ruined symbol, the gate's red sky, the attic's journal. Your heart races. Is this glitch a window like the alley's door? You think of the shadow players, their devices steering fate. Are they behind this, or is reality breaking on its own? You chuckle nervously, hope this isn't the universe's blue screen of death. Imagine you stand and time snaps back. People move, clocks tick, but the air feels wrong, like it's stitched together poorly. You see a man staring at you, his eyes too bright, like the clearing's chanters. He points at your pocket, then vanishes into the crowd. The shard burns hot, and you feel a loop like the forest slip, but it's not time. It's reality glitching, showing you a square where the towers are twisted, like the rooftops' parallel lives. You mutter, if this is a reboot, I want my money back. Let's dive deeper. You notice graffiti on a wall, spirals like the meadows glowing faintly. You touch it and the square flickers again, showing a version where it's empty, the sky red like the portal's cliffs. You recall ancient Norse myths around 800 CE of world breaks, where reality faltered and seers saw other realms. Is this square a break like the marsh's thin place? The disc pulses and you feel the glitch spreading like the valley's energies, tying to the ocean's spire, the sky's watchers. Now picture a sound, a sharp buzz like the lab's machines coming from the crack in the pavement. It widens and you see light below, like the forbidden zone's glow. You step back and the crowd slows again, their shadows doubled like yours in the study, one lagging as if stuck in the glitch. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these glitches their visions, reality seems splitting? You laugh softly, guess you're the universe's IT guy now fixing its bugs. Let's lighten the mood. Ever refresh a web page and get a 404 error? That's you now, standing in a city that's throwing a tantrum with its own existence. You grin, imagining telling your friends you debugged reality. But the buzz grows and the billboard flickers again, showing the spiral sketch from the park. You wave at it and your shadow's second half waves back, like it's in another square. The disc and shard hum, linking this glitch to the ruin, the gate, the attic's traces. One last thought as you leave the square. In the 2000s, quantum computing revealed systems that glitch between states, defying logic. This square feels like that, a place where reality's code crashes, showing the forest, the ocean, the shadow player's hands. You walk away, the disc's pulse steadying, but the glitch lingers, a reminder that reality's not as solid as you thought. You've left the glitching city square behind, its stuttering reality still flickering in your mind like a bad TV signal. Now you're in a desert at dusk, the sand cool under your boots, stars waking up in a sky that feels too vast. You're laughing at the universe's pranks, cosmic jokes hidden in plain sight, woven into the world like punchlines you're only now getting. The disc and shard in your pocket hum softly, their glow casting spirals on the dunes, like the meadow's patterns, like the city's graffiti. Let's anchor this in history. In 585 BCE, Anaximander of Miletus proposed the Earth floats in space, a radical idea that mocked the flat world myths of his time. His theory was a cosmic jest, appending what people thought they knew. You're in this desert, and the stars above form patterns, spirals like the library's numbers, that seem to wink at you as if the universe is chuckling at its own cleverness. You laugh quietly, great, now you're the butt of a galactic stand-up routine. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1976, a radio station in Texas broadcast a signal that looped backward, playing messages about future events, like a flood that hit days later. Engineers called it a glitch, but listeners swore it was deliberate, like the universe was trolling them. Historians still argue whether it was a prank or a cosmic hiccup, like the square's time freeze. You're watching the stars now, and one pulses red, like the hill's signal, then shifts to form a spiral. You mutter, "Okay universe, your jokes need work." Picture yourself walking across the dunes, the sand whispering under your feet. The disk's glow lights your path, and you notice footprints, yours, but they're ahead of you like the attic's time traveler traces. You follow them, and they lead to a rock etched with a spiral like the clearing stones. You touch it, and the air hums, showing flashes. The ruined symbol, the ocean's spire, the shadow player's ledger. Your heart skips. Is the universe laughing, tying these moments into a cosmic gag? You chuckle nervously, hope the punchline isn't on you. Imagine you sit by the rock, the stars brighter now. The shard pulses and the dunes ripple, forming spirals that match your sketch from the park. You think of the valley's invisible forces, the marsh's voices. Are these pranks the universe's way of talking, like the cliff's pulse? You recall ancient Greek comedies around 400 BCE, where gods played tricks on mortals for sport. Is the universe doing that, dropping clues like the gate's portal or the lab's dreaming machines? You mutter, "If this is a skit, I need a better agent." Let's dive deeper. You notice the footprints shift, circling the rock like they're dancing. The disc hums louder, and the stars above align into a pattern, not a constellation but a map like the archives. It shows places you've been, the forest, the ocean, the study. You laugh softly, guess the universe is a comedian with a PowerPoint. The shard glows and you feel a tug, like the clearing's ritual, as if the joke's inviting you to laugh along. But the air smells sharp, like the forbidden zone, and you wonder if the humor's darker than it seems. Now picture a sound, a low chuckle like the ocean's groan but lighter, coming from the dunes. The spirals in the sand glow and you see shapes, faint, like the valley's tree shadows, winking before they vanish. You think of the sky's watchers, their lights playing tag. Are they the comedians or just the audience? You stand and the rock pulses, showing a glimpse of the square's glitch, frozen mid-laugh. You mutter, "Nice one, universe, but I'm not clapping yet." Let's lighten the mood. Ever tell a joke and realize no one's listening? That's you now, giggling at stars that probably don't care about your stand-up. You grin, imagining telling your friends the universe pranked you with cosmic memes. But the hum grows and your shadow splits, like in the square, one lagging as if it's still chuckling at the dune's gag. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond reality. Are these pranks their visions, the universe's way of winking? One last thought as you leave the desert. In the 2000s, physicists found quantum particles behaving randomly, like they're rolling dice. This desert feels like that, a place where the universe plays jokes with the ruin, the gate, the shadow player's strings. The disk and shard hum softly, the stars above still smirking. You walk away, but the cosmic laughter follows, hinting at a punchline you're not quite ready to hear. You've left the desert's cosmic chuckles behind, the stars' winking spirals still twinkling in your thoughts like a joke you half get. Now you're on a mountaintop, the air thin and cold, a sea of clouds below hiding the world you thought you knew. You're confronting realities too vast for your mind to hold, truths that stretch beyond the edges of reason, like trying to cup the ocean in your hands. The disk and shard in your pocket hum fiercely, their glow painting spirals on the rock, tying every moment, the ruin, the gate, the shadow players, into one overwhelming tapestry. Let's anchor this in history. In 1543, Copernicus published his theory that the Earth orbits the Sun, a truth so vast it shattered centuries of belief, forcing humanity to rethink its place in the cosmos. You're standing here and the clouds part, revealing stars that don't align with any chart you know, pulsing like the hill's signals. The disk's hum feels like it's unraveling reality itself, showing you a universe where the forest's time slips, the ocean's spire, and the attic's traces are just threads in something bigger. You laugh softly, great, now you're auditioning for a cosmic TED Talk. Here's the quirky tidbit. In 1931, a Swiss hiker claimed he saw a city in the clouds above the Alps, with spires like the oceans, moving as if alive. Scientists called it a mirage, but locals swore it appeared every century, always with a hum like your disk. Historians still argue whether it was illusion or a glimpse of something beyond, like the rooftops' parallel lives. You're gazing at the clouds now, and they swirl into spirals, like the library's numbers, whispering truths too heavy to grasp. You mutter, "Okay, universe, I'm not ready for the final exam." Picture yourself sitting on the rock, the wind howling like the marsh's voices. The disk and shard burn hot, and you feel a pressure like the alley's shimmering veil, but infinite as if reality's every layer, the meadow, the lab, the desert, is pressing down. You pull out the park sketch and it glows, its spiral mirroring the stars. Images flood you, the shadow players steering fate, the sky's watchers landing, the gate's red sky swallowing the world. Your heart pounds. Is this the truth, all realities converging? You chuckle nervously, hope there's a cosmic Cliff's Notes for this. Imagine you stand, the mountaintop trembling like the cliff's pulse. The stars shift, forming a map, like the archives, but vast, marking every place you've been and places you haven't, yet. You think of ancient Sumerian myths, around 3000 BCE, of gods weaving the universe's fabric. Is that what you're seeing, the weave itself? The shard pulses and you feel every moment. The ruins hum, the oceans groan, the study's shadows, collapsing into one. You mutter, "If this is enlightenment, I need a nap first." Let's dive deeper. You notice carvings on the rock, spirals like the canyons, glowing like the valley's pebbles. You touch one and the clouds below light up, showing glimpses. The lab's machines dreaming, the clearing's chanters bending fate, you in a future from your dreams, holding the disk. The air crackles like the square's glitch and you feel a truth too big, realities aren't separate. They're one, layered like the rooftops' lives, stitched by the library's numbers. You laugh softly, guess you're holding the universe's cheat code now. Now, picture a sound, a deep hum like the ocean's bloop, but all-encompassing, rising from the mountain. The stars pulse in sync, and your shadow splits, like in the desert, one lagging as if it's still in another reality. You think of the park's voices, their minds touching beyond. Is this truth what they saw, too vast for words? The disk and shard glow brighter, and you feel a pull like the gate's portal, urging you to step into the weave. You mutter, "Nice try, universe, but I'm not merging with the matrix yet." Let's lighten the mood. Ever try solving a puzzle and realize it's missing half the pieces? That's you now, staring at a universe that's laughing at your tiny brain. You grin, imagining telling your friends you flunked Cosmic 101. But the hum softens and the clouds close, the stars fading. The disc and shard pulse gently, tying you to every place. The forest, the study, the marsh. You're part of this truth even if you can't hold it all. The wind slows, its howl now a whisper, like a lullaby cradling you on this mountaintop. The clouds below soften, their spirals dissolving into mist, as if the universe is tucking away its secrets for tonight. You sit again, the rock cool against your back, the disc and shard quieting, their glow a gentle ember. The vast truths you glimpsed, the weave of realities, the players, the portals, settle into a soft hum, no longer overwhelming but comforting, like the fan you turned on hours ago. You're not meant to solve it all, not yet. The stars are gone, but their light lingers in your mind, a promise that you'll find your place in this tapestry, one thread at a time. Close your eyes now, let the mountain's breath carry you, and drift into a dream where the answers wait, patient and kind.